Welcome to this week's episode of Everything Went Black. Also, Black Lodge, the new mini-series that Brandon Legion and I are collaborating on, which is a deep dive into the world of Twin Peaks. Everything Went Black is part of a larger group of content creators at war with mediocrity, known as the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Kicking things off every other Monday, we got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Up next on Tuesdays, we've got Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere. Wednesday is a double shot day. You get Everything Went Black, along with Iblis Manifestations. Thursday, another double shot day. It's Necro Thursday for the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast, as well as Day 1 of Soul Knocks, brought to you by Carl Hycara. Friday, we have Spitball Media. Saturday is a day off, but Sunday, Carl Hycara returns with Day 2 of Soul Knocks. Carl and I are doing a collaboration called Darkness Weaves, where we explore the work of Carl Edward Wagner. If you like the show, by all means, share it with your friends, give us likes on all the various social media platforms, give us a review on Apple, or if you really like the show, you can put your money where your mouth is and join the Everything Went Black Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to bonus content. For $5 a month, you get all the bonus content, plus early access to the regular shows. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor. I'd like to welcome Cam to the Patreon crew. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. All right, so this is the first installment of our new series, Black Lodge, which is going to be a collaboration between myself and Brandon Legion of the Horror Wolf 666 podcast. You and I have been talking about doing this for a while, so it's good that we're finally getting to it, Brandon.
Yeah, dude, I'm really excited about this. Where I know we're both big Twin Peaks fans and stuff, and I think this is going to be fun. And it's also be really cool to go back through the series and kind of like really examine it and stuff, because it gets so crazy and wild. Like to slow it down a bit and go episode through episode, I think that's going to help out a bunch with like the understanding of the whole scenarios and stuff.
Exactly. And David Lynch passed earlier this year, so this is like kind of like a little in memoriam for David Lynch, who both I know the two of us are huge fans, and has influenced us both quite a bit.
Yeah, man, it's still wild to know that he's gone. Like we'll never get another David Lynch film, and that powerful entity has left us, because there's no other director like David Lynch. There's a few out there that are like in the similar vein of what he's done, but there is no David Lynch. There's nobody out there capturing what he could capture, and like in between like the dream world and the living world, and all kinds of weird shit. Like nobody captures that stuff but David Lynch. So really sucks to think about, that's it for David Lynch.
Now, just a little back history on myself and my relationship with Twin Peaks. I did not watch this as it aired back in 1990. I was during those couple of years, I was leading this kind of Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn lifestyle. There was no TV, living out of a gym bag for the most part. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so anything that existed in television between those years, I had no knowledge of. So totally missed this. It wasn't until much later when I sort of established myself, living somewhere, that I had, access to TV and VHS tapes and, DVDs and stuff like that. And I watched it all in one shot, and I've been like, I was definitely a fan of his films because I would go to the movies and see these films, but the David Lynch television experience was not something I shared in real time.
Yeah, for me, like my first experience with Twin Peaks was I was really young, and my mom would watch this when it came on, I think CBS, and I didn't understand this shit. I was way too young to be understanding what was going on here, but I found it fascinating and scary. Like I would see certain shots and everything because it'd be late at night when this would come on. For me, anyways, it'd be like a school night or some shit. So it'd be on like 10 o'clock at night, and just being terrified with some of the shots. I'm like, what is this? Like I thought it was a soap opera. It is not a soap opera. It's something way different. And like, and yeah, traumatized me as a kid, and I really didn't start to you know realize how awesome this shit was until I was a little bit older in my teen years and stuff.
Yeah, just like culturally, I mean, people take for granted the fact that there actually was a thing called network television, especially these days with the streaming channels, and anything that would have been a network TV outlet back then is now streaming. So you can watch things if you choose to watch them in real time, you can watch them in real time, or you could watch it whenever you want on demand. And then there's also you have just adjacent to all these things is like varying degrees of like extremity when it comes to content. So it's but back then in the 90s, it like live TV, there was only like three channels, like ABC, NBC, and CBS basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see something like this on television is just like completely for the first, this is something that happened for the first time. It was like a groundbreaking thing to see something like this.
Yeah,
You know,
totally. Because we, like I said, we had three channels, and sometimes you get Fox in, like you had Fox playing like some weird shit, but nothing like Twin Peaks. There's
yeah.
nothing on like Twin Peaks.
And here in the New York, New Jersey area, we had Channel 5, Channel 9, and Channel 11, which would show like horror films, like Chiller Theater, like stuff like that. But that was for the fringe. You know what I mean? That was not mainstream, and those were local channels. So back in the 90s, in 1990, we had Beverly Hills 90210 was like happening. Like that was like the environment for television. And then you get Twin Peaks between 1990 and 1992. Season one and season two aired on ABC, and it was created by David Lynch and Mark Frost. And then not till 2017, the third season aired. So, some decades later, season three airs, and that's on Showtime, which is like
Hmm.
a good home for it. And also in 1990, Lynch's film Wild at Heart came out too. So I definitely saw that in the movies when it came out. And just to give you another reference point, the film prior to Wild at Heart and the Twin Peaks TV show was 1986's Blue Velvet, which once again, like a I mean, you guys have heard this story before. I've told us about I took a date to see that movie. Like, so you guys know the story. I won't go into it again. I won't bore you guys with that. And then in 1992, Fire Walk with Me came out, which was like the prequel to Twin Peaks, which we'll get to at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit of historical, cultural background. That's sort of the atmosphere that Twin Peaks was launched in a very conservative, very middle of the road sort of world. And here comes David Lynch from a very deep place, like this very deep underground, fringe, outsider world. And all those influences are definitely intact in the TV show, despite the fact that I had to follow all of the rules and regulations of network television. So the gist of the story, it's set in the Pacific Northwest in a fictitious town called Twin Peaks. And I would say it's kind of like a aggregate of a bunch of different styles. It's definitely, by my estimation, this is like a weird tale. This
Yeah.
is definitely something that's like, like a Mark Samuels, a little bit of a Thomas Ligotti vibe to some of the stuff. There's detective fiction thrown in there. There's like straight horror with like the serial killer aspect of this thing. And then like a very generous dash of campiness, but not too much. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And all in the very much this like surreal dreamscape world that sometimes borders on reality that David Lynch creates. And were you ever into like comics, like the Fantagraphics comics, like back then, Brandon?
Back in the '90s, like the comics I would read would be like Ghost Rider, old like Conan comics. My dad was a big collector of those, and lot of Ghost Rider, a lot of like X-Men and that kind of stuff. I really
Yeah.
didn't get into like detective comics or anything else like that until like later in life, or like the horror related stuff, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, I was mostly what I read too, but I also was into like the stuff that Fantagraphics was putting out, and there was a comic book creator named Daniel Close and Charles Burns, like these two guys that wrote basically weird fiction for the comics.
Hmm.
And I always, because I read those comics before I watched Twin Peaks, um, because I didn't get into Twin Peaks so much later, I felt like those comics were either influenced by this show, but they're definitely existing in the same atmosphere, like the same region of the world as Twin Peaks. So to me, it was like this kind of like nostalgic Americana, mixed with like darkness and this like very surreal, dreamlike, quality to it. So there was like that element to it. Like, a lot of the stories took place in small towns, like especially the Charles Burns comic book series, Black Hole. It's very much like if you like Twin Peaks, you would definitely like these comics because it has that same kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, I got to check those out, man. I haven't checked those comics out. There's so many cool comics out there, so definitely miss those. But I had those on my list for sure.
Yeah, all that stuff's been collected into trades, so it's easy to come by these days. So this whole thing unfolds. It opens up with we meet Josie Packard, played by Joan Chen. We see her kind of musing. We got that ominous music, the Angelo Badalamenti theme music coming in. Before that, we have the Log Lady intro, talking about deep mystery and the, secrets of a small town and the woods and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of the elements of like the Douglas fir trees, I see it's something about the trees kind of like connect to this story, like the woods and the trees. And, it makes me, at the time I saw this, I had not read Algernon Blackwood's The Willows, but Um, if anyone who has read The Willows by Blackwood, it's like that kind of thing. It's like this like otherworldliness of the woods, and
Hmm.
that plays like a big part in like the Twin Peaks story as well.
Yeah, I definitely see that because through literature and stuff, the woods have always been a place of evil. Don't play in the
Yeah,
woods, don't go out in the woods. It's bad things in the woods, and this whole fucking town is nothing but woods for the most
yeah,
part. Like there's a lot of evil that runs deep in this town.
yeah. It's watching it again later on in life. Now it's like yeah, the woods is almost like this borderland between like two worlds, and a lot of stuff happens in the woods, and we'll get to that as the series progresses.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of weird happenings going on as the series goes on in the woods. So yeah.
So we also meet Pete Martell, played by the great Jack Nance, who Lynch has worked with before in Eraserhead, and he was in Wild at Heart, and he makes appearances in a lot of Lynch's films.
Mhm.
And Catherine Martell, uh, played by Piper Laurie, famous mostly TV actor, I think, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And the soap operas and
Soap
stuff.
operas, yeah.
Yeah.
So familiar face for a lot of people. They're married, and we learn of the intricacies of her involvement because originally she's a Packard,
Hmm.
and the main one of the major industries in town is the Packard wood mill, the paper mill or whatever it is, like a not a paper mill, it's a lumber yard, lumber
Yeah.
mill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can tell that there's like a weird dynamic between the two. Maybe they've been married too long or something, or they've grown apart a little bit. And we do learn that Twin Peaks, the town of Twin Peaks, has its underbelly of infidelity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Pete goes fishing. He's like, I'm going fishing.
Going fishing. Yeah.
Yeah, And this is when the sinister Laura Palmer theme comes in. You
Oh
know, it's like
yeah.
the Laura Palmer theme music, which is like I think that the contrast between the main theme and the Laura Palmer theme are like really interesting because the Twin Peaks title theme is very very bright. You know, it has like a positive aspect to it, you know.
Hmm.
And then where it crossfades in with like the Laura Palmer theme, which is like dark and ominous and just, has this like foreboding like feel to it.
Yeah, it's super. You know what it reminds me of is from Tales from the Dark Side, the TV show that came out, back
Yeah.
in the late '80s and stuff. How the opening, like everything was bright and sunny, then everything goes dark, and the music follows with it. And that's what this reminds me of. Everything's bright and sunny on the outside, but down deep in the Twin Peaks, there's a lot of fucked up, dark things going on. So I think, the music kind of follows that.
And Lynch kind of addresses this in even in Blue Velvet, like back, several years earlier when he made that film. When I finally did get a chance to watch that movie, in its entirety. After my failed date with that girl, I had to go back and watch by myself to watch the movie. Because I grew up in a small town, and you know, you would hear things that happened. Like, I was a good kid. Like, I didn't really get in trouble or nothing like that. I kept to myself, But you would always hear stories about just like these really, really horrible things happening, like to other people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then there was like a side of town that was like a little bit more run down, and that's where all the bad stuff happened. And there was like certain places that just looked dangerous. And Lynch plays on that light and dark in Twin Peaks, just similar to the way he did it in Blue Velvet too. And the Twin Peaks thing goes like way more deeper.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The light and dark plays deeper with Twin Peaks. And also, just like a fun fact for me, like the Laura Palmer theme or whatever was a huge inspiration for me to pick up a fucking keyboard and start playing synths and all that stuff. That was a big thing for me because it's so haunting, man. It's like something you can never get out of your head. It just stays there forever. And like, I wanted to get that out. So that was a big reason why I started playing keyboards is because of the Laura Palmer theme. So,
Well, definitely, I can hear it in the early Abraxas Horn stuff. You know what I mean? For sure. You know,
mhm.
like it was the earlier stuff you did definitely had like this kind of influence in it. And I think,
Yeah, it's 100% and some Twin Peaks stuff going on there, mixed with Mandy, of course. But
yeah,
man, yeah, the Laura Palmer theme is just so fucking haunting. Like,
I mean, Badalamenti in general is like a master or was a master of film scores, and this whole score and even the Julie Cruz material that's in here is, I mean, Lynch has always been a big music guy, so that's not a surprise.
no.
Yeah. So we find the iconic body wrapped in plastic, just sort of on the shoreline, and Pete finds this body wrapped in plastic, and right away calls it in. And here's where we meet Lucy Moran, played by Kimmy Robertson, who is a one of the main cast, as in my opinion.
Yeah.
And and then enter Sheriff Harry S. Truman,
Yeah. Harry Truman. Oh my
yeah,
God.
played by Michael Arntkeen. And we get the iconic dialogue delivered by Pete. She's dead, wrapped in plastic. And there's been a lot of I think wasn't there like a zine or something, like a fanzine called Wrapped in Plastic, like from decades ago, I think.
I believe so. It definitely sounds familiar.
Yeah, there was some kind of tie-in zine or something fan fiction thing called Wrapped in Plastic, I believe, from the late 90s or whatever.
Also, would make a great band name for like a grindcore band or something, something nasty wrapped
Oh
in
yeah.
plastic. It'd be fucking cool.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So the Packard place, that becomes a crime scene now. The shoreline there where we find the body, and here we meet Dr. Will Hayward, who's another key figure because he's the father of one of Laura's friends we're going to meet later on, played by Warren Frost. Fan favorite Deputy Andy,
Yeah.
uh,
Mr. Cryer.
Mr. Cryer.
Yeah.
played by Harry Goes. I always mispronounce his last name.
Yeah, goes looks right. It's like go as or goes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think goes sounds cool. Yeah.
yeah. And he gets very emotional. He's crying. That's one of his characteristics is that he's probably a guy, if he lived in any other town than Twin Peaks, probably would not have gone into law enforcement.
No.
He probably would have, worked with animals or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. He cries a lot throughout the
Yeah,
series.
yeah. And this is where we actually see the body of Laura Palmer, played by Cheryl Lee. And it's like, iconic scene.
Hmm.
That's like another that and her graduation photo or her school photo um, are like iconic things you find on the internet, like pictures of Laura Palmer and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we cut to the Palmer household, and we see Sarah Palmer, played by the great Grace Zabriskie, who has going to be returning to work with Lynch over the years.
Hmm.
She calls out to Laura, believing that she's still at home. She has no idea that she's gone, you know.
Hmm.
And there's like a recurring shot that we see for the first time around here with there's that shot up the staircase
Yes.
with that fan spinning. All right. And it's like, the more you watch this thing, you pick up on stuff like that. The first time through goes right by you.
Hmm.
But that upstairs area, it's almost like that it takes on like its own nightmare world in some ways.
Yeah, that was in my notes. I put on there the stairs are menacing, just to remind me, like you said, there's a nightmare world going up. There's some really bad things going up, on those stairs there, and the way they capture those stairs too is like, I don't know, very like almost like a liminal thing, like some of those like Skinamarink almost how that was
Yeah.
filmed. That's what it reminds me of. It's like fuck, there's something really fucking scary about those stairs and what goes on up there.
Yeah, and we see it comes back, that same point of view comes back, and it's and this is the mastery of like Lynch's work, I think, as a filmmaker, where he has these notes, like these like cues that he uses that you might not, they don't have any significance first time through, but it sort of builds up this energy the more you see it, because it's like, what's up with those stairs? Like, what does this mean? And the whole story with the Palmers develops over a pretty extended period of time,
Hmm.
and after rewatching it, you start seeing like these cues and these little like winks and not nudges that there's like foreshadowing to stuff, and it's really interesting to, that lends to the rewatchability of the whole Twin Peaks series.
Yeah. Also, now there's something weird I caught too, around this scene or right before this scene or whatever. But there's something odd. But I noticed there's some a box of like Captain Crunch behind where she's sitting at when she gets like the call or whatever and stuff. But it's called something. It's called like Crunchies. I just found it weird because it's kind of right there in the shot, and then there's like Quaker Oats next to that, and it's called like cereal. I don't know. This kind of
Huh.
caught me. I thought it was pretty fucking weird. Yeah.
Damn. I didn't even notice that.
Well, I got like a 90-inch TV, so all the detail I can see now is fucking crazy. So,
I got to get one of those before they cost like 40 grand.
oh yeah, dude, I got mine for like 700. So yeah, before they get like 50 grand, get one now
Yeah,
because yeah,
totally.
weird details like that. It's before the whole stair scene, I was like, man, that's just odd, man. This caught my eye. Like, did he mean for me to see that? I think he did, knowing David Lynch, but very strange.
So now, the panic starts setting in. Like we know that Laura Palmer is dead. Sarah has no idea what's going on. She thinks the whole time she thought Laura was up in her bedroom sleeping, getting ready for school the next morning. And the, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine what kind of stress that puts on a mother. You can't find her daughter's missing. Where is she at? We don't know anything. So right away she calls over to the Briggs house because that's where her boyfriend Bobby is, part of the Briggs family, and Bobby's missing. He didn't go to football practice that morning, that kind of thing. So we cut to the Great Northern, which is probably the other big business in Twin Peaks, is the hotel. So we got the lumber mill and the hotel, the Great Northern, the Packard Mill and the Great Northern Hotel, which are like the big industries in Twin Peaks. And enter Audrey Horne, another pivotal character,
Oh yeah,
played by Sherilyn Fenn, and she gets into a limo to drive to school. So we see that her family has some means, you know.
definitely.
Yeah. And then we find ourselves with Leland Palmer, played by Ray Wise, and Benjamin Horne by Richard Beimer. They're wheeling and dealing with the Norwegians. So I forgot exactly what the deal was. There was some deal with these Norwegian dudes that they're trying to convince them to, I don't know, come there for some reason. They're trying to sell them on the clean air and all this sort of stuff. And Leland is I believe he's Ben Horne's accountant, so he's part of this whole operation.
Hmm.
And Sarah phones in and tells Leland that Laura is missing. And you kind of see the callousness of Ben Horne, where he's like, hey, don't take too long on the phone here. I need you.
Yeah, yeah, fucking douchebag. Yeah.
And this leads into another really ominous scene where Leland is on the phone with Sarah, and she's telling him that Laura's missing. We don't know where she is. And then in the background, we see a police car driving up to the Great Northern, to the office there. And and we know what that's all about. We know that they know that the police know that Laura's dead. They're they're going to find Leland, who works at the Great Northern, and to
Mhm.
tell him the bad news. And while Leland is on the phone with Sarah, uh, Harry Truman comes in, Sheriff Harry Truman, that is.
Mhm.
And when this all happens, like he tells, and this is probably why. All right, I'll lay it out first. It's like he tells Leland that Laura has been found dead, right?
Mhm.
And we see that Ben has an odd look on his face when he breaks the news to him, right? And you don't pick this up if you haven't watched this before. You know, you don't notice this, but after watching it like 20 to 30 times, like I have over the years, you see that Ben has this strange look on his face. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And we learn later on, why. But
Yeah.
and so Sarah finds that's how she learns about Laura's death is over the phone, and she starts one of the most like epic screaming grief episodes I've ever seen in film history. The Sarah Palmer screaming, you
Oh
know,
yeah, dude.
yeah,
There's like that one scream she does at the very end where it breaks up, like it's so like evil sounding, and it breaks up and it goes in like normalness after that. But it's like there's one moment where it's like it's in a whole nother dimension of screaming. It's pretty powerful.
yeah. Grace Zabriskie is an actress who goes there. Like she goes to these places, man. You see her work in other films. She has this side to her technique where she definitely can tie into like some real darkness.
Hmm.
So here we cut to the Double R Diner, and we see Bobby, played by Dana Ashbrook, drinking a cup of coffee. And I've actually been to the Double R Diner
Oh, nice.
in my travels across the country, and I spent like $100 on merchandise when I was there. Like I got like a couple of Double R mugs. I got like a shirt. We got lunch there, that kind of thing. Took some pictures. If you guys go way back on my Instagram feed, you'll see me at the Double R Diner there.
That's how was the food?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's
Yeah.
it's like wholesome diner food. It's like out there in the salt of the earth part of the state.
Hmm.
And we also visited the waterfall too that is in the Twin Peaks intro.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we got the whole experience when we were out there. We made a point of we were actually going from Seattle to Spokane, Washington. So it's like that run from the western part of the state to the eastern part of the state. It's kind of right on that run. So we
Hmm,
made a point of going there.
cool.
Um, so this is where we meet some other key characters in this. We meet up with Shelly and Norma, who, they Norma owns the Double R Diner, and Shelly works there, and that's played by Majkin Amick and Peggy Lipton. And in some ways, they're kind of like they almost look like mother and daughter, you know?
Yeah, they definitely have that feeling. And like first time seeing this, I thought they were related, but
Yeah,
they're
like
not. Yeah.
they're both these like pretty blonde women, you know. Obviously, Norma's a bit older, you know, and Shelley is, I would say, I would place Shelley's age at maybe like 18, maybe 18 or 19. She's like maybe a recent high school graduate.
Yeah, definitely young, but yeah, probably 18 or 19.
Yeah, and Bobby still in high school. He's a football player, so they're got comparable ages.
Yeah. Also, Bobby has an extreme like 50s vibe about him. He reminds me of like William Defoe. Can't remember the name of the movie right now. Where
The
William
love
Defoe, like which one?
and the Loveless.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
reminds, yeah, definitely got big Defoe vibes and stuff in the scene and the whole series in general.
Actually, The Loveless is a good movie. That's I
It
think
is.
the cinematographer who works with David Lynch made that film.
Oh, no, that's a weird connection, but yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, the way
Yeah.
that looks and the way this looks and some of those other stuff. Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
Young Willem Dafoe, and also features the rockabilly singer Robert Gordon in that movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. I used to have that on DVD actually, on Blu-ray.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be a good one to own. Did they ever do like a special edition of that? Maybe a Criterion, or is that even a Criterion film?
You know what, man? I feel like Criterion has done something with that. I got to look into that for sure.
It's
Because
a great film, man. It's so
yeah,
good.
very, no, once again, just dark. The ending is really, really just heavy and dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see a little interplay between Bobby and Shelly and Norma, and we establish that Bobby, in addition to being Laura's, daytime boyfriend, is also seeing Shelly behind her back, you know. And then,
Hmm.
Bobby makes a statement like as he's leaving about Norma. It's like I think she knows about us, or something like that, where it's obvious that the two of them are, in cahoots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's wearing a leather jacket, but he also has the school, his varsity letter, like sewn to the back of it.
Yeah. To me, I think he's a bit of a nerd, but that's just me.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of physical presence. Like he's very, yeah, it's interesting because like they try to play him up as like some sort of athlete, like tough guy, like, bad dude. But um he just doesn't have the physicality for that.
No, not at all. Yeah, he's like, yeah, there's nothing to him really. Like how you're on the football team. I'm curious what position you play, and yeah, I don't know. He's not the tough guy to make him out to be.
Yeah. At this point, they make references to Leo Johnson that, or not by name, but she says something, or we learn that she's married to a trucker that goes
Hmm.
out of town a lot. And this is how the two of them are able to maintain this clandestine relationship that they have, you know. So then we cut back to the police station, and Leland is viewing the body, and that's he's seeing his daughter's body for the first time.
Hmm.
And then so now we're going to meet some more of the high school, the people more related to Laura. We meet Donna Hayward at the high school, and that's played by Lara Flynn Boyle, and she's interacting with Audrey Horne, and enter James Hurley, played by James Marshall,
Yeah.
and he's this sort of Marlon Brando esque outsider, kind of mumbler, biker type guy,
Mhm.
still in high school, but he drives a Harley.
Yeah, cool guy.
Yeah. By the way, everyone that's in high school is about 27 years old, just to let you guys know.
Yeah, they're a bit old to be in high school, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
which was kind of typical for the 90s, I guess, like the 80s and the 90s. Like, I mentioned Beverly Hills 90120, like one of the characters, it was like a 32 or something like that, and she played like a high school kid.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a 90s trend. I don't know. Guess you couldn't find any really good young actors. So, like, that would put you in there. You're 30, you can pass for 18. Why not?
Yeah. Nowadays they have more, age appropriate, I mean, actually things skew super young these days, which I find weird sometimes.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
true.
So then we also meet the Mutt and Jeff duo of Bobby and Mike, and we're introduced to Mike, which is played by Gary Hirschberger, and he's more of a meathead sort of guy,
Hmm.
kind of fits the bill of a dumb jock sort of dude. And this next scene though is very, very much like kind of like an iconic scene in some ways, like when they're doing the roll call, right, at high school. And they're all in
Hmm.
home or in homeroom. You know, the cop comes in. Donna notices that Laura's desk is empty before they make the announcement that, Laura has been found dead, and there's like these glances between Donna, the empty seat, James Hurley, and you get the sense that there's something going on behind the scenes, you know. So the cops bring in Bobby because he was technically the last that they know of was the last person to have seen Laura alive. So of
Yeah.
course he's right away, the prime suspect in this whole operation.
And he's showing like no emotion either. Like
Yeah.
he actually doesn't give a fuck. But he's kind of a dirtbag character, anyways, in my opinion. So,
So that lack of emotion is kind of like the earmarkings of like a sociopath. So yeah, I believe that.
hmm.
I believe that he's got sociopathic tendencies. So they bring him in, Deputy Andy and Deputy Hawk. We meet Deputy Hawk here, and that's the great Michael Horse,
Yeah.
Native American actor. They're questioning Bobby. This is where Truman comes in, and we find out that this is where we find out that he was the last person to see her alive, and so yeah, he's a prime suspect at this point.
And once they make that like the announcement too, like I don't know if you noticed, but like Audrey like smiles almost towards the end of that scene. Like there's something really evil going on with Audrey. I know Audrey goes through a lot of stuff throughout this series, but like I don't know, she's like a chaotic evil type character. There's like a smile there I never seen before. I was like, that's interesting.
Well, yeah, that's a good point actually to talk about Audrey for a little bit because she's not in the forefront at this stage. Like in the pilot, we just kind of see her, right?
Hmm.
But we see that actually later on in this episode, there is a little bit of the chaos that she is capable of gets brought out. And yeah, that's a good, like if we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, like she would be a chaotic neutral element, I think.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever got into D&D, but I did when I was a kid. But
I didn't, but my wife's all into that,
oh,
and she knows.
really?
Yeah, she's told me a bunch about D&D. So like, I've never played it, so
Yeah.
but yeah, she's told me a bunch about it.
Yeah, so in D&D, there's just different character elements and, chaotic neutral, chaotic evil, Chaotic neutral would be like Audrey. Like she's not good or bad, but she's like she rolls the dice. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And yeah, I like using those terms because it actually is a very apt way of describing characters in movies and books a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely. And it definitely fits her too. And she also has like almost like a cat-like quality to her, the way she kind of like, she prances around, causing trouble here and there to draw people's attention. Very cat-like too. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
She's one of my favorite characters actually. And just her vibe and she's like such a unique like young lady, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
yeah, the next episode there's some cool scenes with her too, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so we're back at the Palmer household and Sarah is stricken with grief, you know, debilitated, completely broken up by this whole thing. And so he's asked Sheriff Truman's asking her questions. And Deputy Andy and Leland are upstairs. Okay. And there's another reference to the upstairs where she's like, "Who's upstairs?" Or she says something about hearing things upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Truman says, "Oh, these are just my men up there." He says, "I can tell it's not her by the way those by the sounds or something." You know what I mean? It's building the whole mythos of the second floor of the house, being this like dark nightmare world in some ways.
Yeah, and they shoot to the stairs again too, and like in
Yeah.
another one of those like weird shots where it's like, man, that's fucking weird.
And you're right about like I totally agree with you about the liminal space quality of it, where it seems like this is like like in Skinamarink, like the
Mm.
entire movie was basically like that, those types of scenes where it's like this empty space filled with dread.
Yeah, totally. And also too with like the upstairs and everything. I don't know if you've ever been afraid of going upstairs
Oh
as a
yeah.
kid. It's kind of like going down in the basement, but the opposite because like the fear of the unknown, what's upstairs, like you hear things bumping around out there. If it's dark and stuff, like what's upstairs, what's coming down the stairs, like that stuff's terrifying as a kid. And this the feeling of the unknown and what's up there.
So we find upstairs we find the famous diary and this old school like video camera, you know.
Mm.
Um, we also learn that there's another young lady in town who went missing that night prior. We learned that Ronette Pulaski did not come home that night, and she plays in this whole drama. And Ronette, we don't see her just yet, but she's played by Phoebe Augustine.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Is
then
that? Oh,
I'm
oh,
sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, is that when they find the magazine?
No, not yet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, Cooper. See, we haven't even hit the midpoint of the episode just yet because Cooper is still, the biggest, iconic character hasn't even been brought onto the scene yet at
That's
this point.
true.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. I don't want to jump the gun. So yeah, all
no,
right.
no, it's all good.
Yeah.
So now we also see some of the drama between the Packards and the Martells. So we go to the mill, and we learned earlier that the high school classes were dismissed that day because of Laura's death, and Josie shuts down the plant for the day. Also because Ronette Pulaski's father works there too, so she shuts down the plant. Catherine's pissed. She's like, we'll lose millions of dollars if we shut the plant down today. So this is kind of like this doesn't get revealed at this point, but just as like a bit of a background, Josie um, Packard married into the family. Okay, the Packard family, and the husband's gone. He's passed away, and Catherine Martell is a Packard originally, and that's her sister-in-law, right? So, we have a little bit of like a you know Tudor-esque power play going on here between who's entitled to the throne at this point of the Packard mill. Catherine Packard slash Martell. The mill has been in her family, all these years, and she looks at Josie as like this kind of interloper who possibly has married into the family for the money and power and that sort of stuff.
Mm.
So a little bit of flavor, you know. Um, Ronette Pulaski's found. She's like wandering on the train tracks, and they bring her to the hospital, and she's in under care at this point. Now we meet Big Ed Hurley,
Yeah.
played by played by Everett McGill. Another cool character, man. Like because we learned, this doesn't come out just in this episode, but there's a whole the Bookhouse Boys, like Big Ed Hurley, the Hurley family. Like he's like a good, solid dude. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that's James's uncle. And this is where we learn that James was also seeing Laura. So here we have another love triangle. We've got Laura Palmer and Bobby, and then we got James as
Mm.
the other man. Now, James is a way cooler guy than Bobby, in my opinion. So,
Oh yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah.
you know. So then we also see Nadine, Big Ed's wife, um, and she's it's the Nadine and Drapes scenario, which comes up again and again.
Yeah, so fucking weird. The fascination with the drapes, but yeah, it works for the series. It's definitely weird.
Yeah, and she's got a somehow she has an eye patch.
Yeah, and you know what's weird because what's his name played in Silver Bullet, who he had an eye patch when he played the preacher werewolf, and it was like she has an eye patch in this. I'm like, maybe coincidence. I don't know. The eye patch I think adds like a sinisterness to her.
Oh yeah, definitely. Uh oh yeah, and Nadine is played by Wendy Roby. Yeah. Finally, we cut to the entrance of Special Agent Dale Cooper,
Mm.
Federal Bureau of Investigations, played by the great Kyle MacLachlan. And he's probably one of the most iconic characters in the 90s.
Yeah, totally agree.
The 90s loved the FBI, man. If you think about it, they have like,
Yeah.
we got this, we got X-Files, we've got, though they weren't, I don't think they were FBI people, but they were, you ever see Millennium?
Oh, dude, I used to love Millennium. Yeah, that was like a tie-in with the X Files somewhere through
Yeah.
there. I think that was on one of the cases, and then the spinoff show happened with Millennium. But yeah, I think he was FBI or something like that, some type of special unit investigating like
Yeah.
cult stuff.
Yeah. They're definitely G-men. And,
Yeah,
yeah, Lance Henriksen was in that great series. I think just 2 seasons. You can't stream it anywhere, oddly enough.
no, they've been trying to get the rights to stream that for a while now. I was following some of Lance Henriksen stuff about trying to get that out there on like Blu-ray and stuff, and it's some kind of legal issues going on with that. But it'd be really cool to see that on Blu-ray. I think you can get it on DVD still,
Yeah.
but
I actually I have both seasons on DVD. It's a fantastic series that got canceled. So it's funny, it got canceled because it was like too heavy for like television. You know what I mean? Because similar to like Hannibal, which was on like NBC when it came out originally. Like if Hannibal came out today,
mhm.
it would have been like the biggest, TV series ever. Like if it was on, Max or something like that.
Oh, it'd been huge. Yeah.
But people on NBC, at that time when there was only network, it came out in the waning days of network television. I'm talking about Hannibal now. And
Hmm.
it was just too weird and heavy for people, and it did not get good ratings. And that was kind of the story with Millennium. Millennium was just like had too much of a downbeat tone, and there was no lightness to it. It was just dark the whole time, and no one liked it apparently.
Yeah, crazy man, so good. But yeah, if a show like Millennium came on like nowadays, it'd been great. Like people loved it and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
back then it was just too much for old Fox Network, I guess.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So we got Dale Cooper. He's talking to Diane, which Diane comes, we find out about her much later on. But
Yeah.
he got his handheld tape recorder, putting in his logging in his observances of the day. He had lunch for $3.61 at the Lamplighter Inn.
Cherry pie was great.
Cherry pie was great.
Yeah.
And he's taken aback by the trees. He's like, what kind of trees are these? He has to like find out like what these great, beautiful trees are in the area.
Mhm.
So he meets up with Truman at the police station, and he asks him right away. He's like, what kind of trees are these? And he's like, they're Douglas firs. And this is a cool scene too, because every cop show, whenever the FBI gets involved, there's always like a schism between the federal G-men and the local law enforcement. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's like, okay, we're calling the FBI in, and the FBI takes charge. The locals are like, fuck these guys. You know what I mean? But Cooper, the ultimate diplomat, as they're walking down the hall, he just like turns to Sheriff Truman. He's like, I got to get this right out in the open. And he's like, basically in a very, very diplomatic, straightforward, totally fucking sick way. He's like, I'm in charge, and you're supporting me.
Yeah.
And it just fucking like a gentleman, he says it to him, man. And then Truman's like, yeah, no problem, Coop. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now we check out before. First thing they do, he goes to examine Rona Pulaski and possibly do some kind of interview with her. But she's still at this stage very much not able to communicate with anybody.
Hmm.
But we do learn that Ronette and Laura went to the same high school, so that's a tie between the two of them. And then we this is kind of cool how like originally, we they don't tell you this, but he looks at her fingers and he doesn't find anything.
Hmm.
That comes back later on. And then Ronette starts to stir and it looks like she's, going to come out of her coma that she's in.
Hmm.
Yeah. As we leave, they run into the one-armed man in passing, and that's played by Al Strobel, and the very, very odd Dr. Jacoby, played by Russ Tamlin.
Yeah, he is super odd. He has like a 70s thing going on, you know. It doesn't really fit in with the town of Twin Peaks. He's like a
Nah,
looks like
yeah,
a flower child or something, you know. It's very odd.
he looks like he's probably taking a little too much acid. He's got these crazy glasses. He's got corks in his ears, wild hair.
Yeah.
Um, Coop does not take well to Dr. Jacoby. He's like eyeballing and grilling him. Like you can see the look on Coop's face when Jacoby rolls up because he says something to the effect that Laura's parents did not know that she was seeing him as a psychiatrist,
Hmm.
which is very strange. You have an underage girl going to some kind of therapist, and her parents were not involved. So, there's this whole. It's probably at this stage of the game the first indication that Laura was like had like a dark side, that there was like involvement of older men in her life and things like that, which was not healthy.
Yeah, living another life, like a double life, you know, besides the one her parents knew about and her friends even knew about. They didn't know about this other darkness that she, you know, possessed.
Yeah. Cooper examines her hands, and under her fingernail, he finds a piece of paper with the letter R on it. So we've got you know, some some evidence here that was found.
Hmm.
Um, and then so we go back to the police station, and now we have the diary of Laura Palmer, where they're like, "Oh, does anyone have the key?" Cooper just like busts it open. He's like, "I don't need a key."
Yeah, I'm a fucking. I don't need this fucking key.
Yeah. We find a key. We do find a key in there, okay, which is like we find is like a key to a safety deposit box
Hmm.
and a mysterious white powder residue. And
Hmm.
Cooper's like, "Oh, my bet is this cocaine." And even Truman is like, "Well, no, there's no way that you didn't know Laura Palmer." So we're starting to see like Laura on the surface was this regular girl, just very like a good solid member of society. Um, but then oh, drugs. Okay. So they're reading through the diary, and there's a line in there about nervous about meeting Jay. Okay. So Jay. There's more clues. Um the uh the next we cut over to Deputy Andy, who is at the actual scene of the murder, which is like in this train yard area. And he's like where this is like where it all happened, and Andy's crying again. And we see that he's like, a pretty emotional guy.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely
more more
emotional.
more character development here. Okay.
Hmm.
So now Cooper and Truman are interviewing Bobby. Cooper just comes right out. Did you kill Laura Palmer? Probably just to see what Bobby's reaction would be, I imagine. Being
Hmm.
the master interrogator that he is.
Right.
Bobby's like, she's my girlfriend, this and that. He's like a little bit more animated this time around, and then we go through the video of, of Laura Palmer and Donna, which is found on Laura's video recorder. And, we see that there's like a reflection of a motorcycle in Laura's eye. Somehow they are able to see that.
Yeah, which is crazy, but yeah.
Yeah. More, they continue to interrogate Bobby, and then a really funny thing happens. You remember back on, you'd have calculators, and you could put in like, you could make it, you could type words in there somehow, like with numbers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we used to do like boobs. That was one
Yeah,
of our things.
boobs. Yeah,
Yeah,
boobs, things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Somehow Cooper is able to type, he did not do it in a calculator,
Yeah.
which I thought was real. That made me laugh like out loud, actually.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah. So they release Bobby temporarily, at least, but they're keeping their eye on him. Okay. So we cut over to back to the Great Northern. This is where we see a little bit of the chaos of Audrey Horne.
Hmm.
The Norwegians are congregating in one of the meeting rooms, and Audrey shows up and describes how her friend was murdered, and they all bail. So it's like she's just being mischievous, and chaotic, like a
Yeah.
cat, like you're saying, like a cat embodied as a human being would do something like this probably.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So Mike comes and picks up Bobby at the police station, and Lucy like overhears them talking about how they're planning on meeting out some street justice on James because Bobby's picked up on the clues that that James was been making time with his girl, you know.
Hmm.
So you know, there's a little bit of that going on with some vengeance now, retribution. Even though Bobby's cheating on Laura with Shelley.
Yeah, yeah, like fucking douche.
Yeah. Cooper brings Donna in to be interviewed, shows her the video, and she lies because she's like, "Well, who shot the video?" And she's like, "Oh, there's this woman who we didn't know her name," and totally makes up some like a lie that, like I said, only a 17-year-old girl would come up with, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but it's looking like the finger's being pointed at James as being the guy who shot the video, who maybe saw Laura before, after Bobby saw her. So he's also coming into focus as a possible suspect in the murder.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of suspects now and stuff, and a
Yeah.
lot of pointing fingers and everything. And yeah.
But similar to some of my favorite Italian films, these are all red herrings we learn. These
Hmm.
things, the misdirections and all that sort of stuff. Um, so Cooper and Truman go to the murder scene and they find this is some this is some fucking folk horror right here, man, where they have like a mound where there's like a heart necklace, like one of those like high school kids give these to each other like all the time, like the two hearts broken and some corny like high school girl shit.
Yeah.
And then there's a piece of paper that says "Fire Walk with Me."
Yeah.
It's like one of the sickest like sentences ever.
It is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, we have like some more atmosphere going on with this. There's like clues, like cryptic statements. We've got two possible suspects at this point. But hey, a lot happens in this first pilot. And then we cut over to James hanging out on the top of a mountain with like, pensively looking out into the mist. And he has the other half of the heart. Dun, dun,
Hmm.
dun, there we go. All right. So it's not looking good for old James here.
No.
Yeah. Um, so we're back at the not this is kind of significant, I guess, more as like a character development of Laura. Back at the Horn household, we discover that Laura was tutoring Audrey's younger brother who was had some sort of mental challenges. And they're trying to say you have to explain to him that she's not coming back again ever, and that sort of thing. So So here's the whole image of Laura Palmer as like, a nice girl. She tutors, mentally disabled people, Oh, she would never do drugs, like that sort of that's the one persona that she has.
Yeah, yes, definitely. She has a duality of things going on here with the light and dark. You know.
But then we discover the safety deposit box that we have. The key was in Laura's diary. Okay. So
Mhm.
we find all kinds of stuff in there. We find $10,000 in cash, which is like kind of a lot of money for a high school kid to have.
Yeah.
We find an issue of Flesh World,
Yeah.
which with a page marked. Okay. They look at the marked page. There's a sexy photo of underage Ronette Pulaski. And on the other side of that is a grainy photo of a guy in a tractor trailer truck in front of some like, kind of shack style like house. All right.
Hmm.
So why would she have all these things? Where did she come up with the $10,000? Why did she have this like Flesh World magazine, which is like, this is something that probably doesn't even exist anymore. And I remember back in the 90s, like going on tour and you'd go to like truck stops and, there'd be a very extensive selection of pornographic material at the truck stops. And, I imagine one of these weird swinger hook, or maybe it's a porn mag. I don't know. Maybe it was a porno, and there's like some, you know, weird, sketchy underworld of people meeting each other through these magazines. But that's something that you could have easily found in a truck stop somewhere. And, Leo being a trucker, there you go. Draw the lines.
Yeah, that's a good connection there. Also, too, with the Flesh World magazine, like this, the title alone reminds me of something like out of the Clyde Barker universe. I could see it being like a porno for fucking Cenobites. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like Flesh
Hmm.
World. It just sounds like dark and seedy.
Yeah. Very, very well done with the title there.
Hmm.
So now we cut to the Leo and Shelley's household, like where they're living, and we meet Leo. Um, and that's the fuck's the guy? I can't believe didn't write his name
Eric
down.
DeRay. Eric
Eric
DeRay.
Eric DeRay. There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Eric DeRay looks like this dude that played drums in a band from like back when I lived in Boston. That is, he just like it's funny because like like I said, I didn't watch Twin Peaks until probably after that period of time where I was playing in Boston and bands up there. And like I remember watching Twin Peaks and be like, this looks just like that dude, man.
Yeah, he has a face on him like it's a very common look, like you've seen dudes like this before. Like he has that face.
Yeah. And we just kind of get a glimpse into the relationship that they have, where he's like looking at the cigarette ashtray and they have a discussion about like, whose brand of cigarettes, what brand you smoke, and he's suspicious that there's another guy there. Well, I mean, which, the suspicions are correct though, honestly,
Yeah.
so, but you just get to see what an evil, like he just looks evil and bad and dirty and seedy and all these like things.
Yeah. Then he tells her that if he finds anything out, he'll snap her neck like a twig or something, or like a
Yeah.
bird. I'm like, damn, that's pretty fucked up, dude.
The life of a trucker, man, it's got to be a dark life, man. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. All that driving, you're always alone, and all these different weird cities, and the truck stops alone get pretty fucking weird.
Oh yeah, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, I've spent probably months of, if you calculate all the time I've spent at truck stops, it's probably a full year of my life, man. Honestly, just like dealing with places like that, and seeing
Yeah, that's
people and yeah.
Yeah, we sleep there and fucking take showers there. I've seen lot lizards walking
Oh yeah.
around everywhere. I've met a few like weird female truckers who make comments at me when I'm trying to get out the van to go brush my teeth like 6 in the morning. They're like,
Yep.
"Hey, they're long hair or some shit." I'm like, "Whoa, man, large Marge, stay away from me."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really dark world, man. But like that whole lot lizard thing, I feel like is maybe with the internet and stuff, once people started using mobile phones, has been less of a thing these days. But back in the 90s, forget about it. You would go to like get gas or whatever, or maybe eat something later in the evening, and you'd see even during the day you'd see them too, man. These like
Mm.
prostitutes and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy seedy world of truck drivers.
yeah, absolutely, man.
Oh.
It makes me wonder what it'd be like to. I mean, I've never really crossed the country with like a family. It's always been with the band
Mhm.
to like roll up to one of these places as like a family man with all these like creeps around.
That would be wild because I'm the same way. I've never like traveled with my family long distance or anything. It's always been with the band or like me and my wife and stuff, but not like a whole family. That's gotta be a wild sight pulling up on all that.
Yeah. So now we see Norma called Big Ed, and they have their own conversation on the phone, and they plan to meet up at the Roadhouse around 9:30 that night. Okay. So we got more hanky panky going on behind scenes here. Um, there's a town hall meeting, and we get some more back characterization here. This is like, see, the reason why I'm going through so much granularity with this is because of the way that all of the characters are introduced and like the background and like the significance of these scenes. It's
Yeah.
really interesting the way this was done.
Hmm.
Cooper, we kind of get a Cooper gets a rundown of everybody here. Cooper's like, "Who's the babe?" referring to Josie. And Truman explains to him the whole Packard situation, which we touched on earlier. And then he asked about Ben Horn, refers to him as the glad-handing dandy,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like, that's like a straight David Lynch line, as if I've ever heard one, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, straight Lynch. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the log lady comes in. We see her outside of the intro. We see her in the story now. She comes in, and we learn about her a little bit.
Hmm.
And this is where Cooper lays it out that the reason why the FBI is involved is this case has some similarities and connections to another case with another woman who disappeared or was murdered, Teresa Banks. Okay, so now little background and foreshadowing at the same time because
Hmm.
we learn about Teresa Banks in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the possibility of like serial murder going on. The FBI is involved. There's like connections. So that was a nice way to put that info out there, through the town hall meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Um, so Dr. Hayward and his wife, he updates her about the necklace and the video and trying to find the other half of who has the other half. Is most likely the murderer. Um, so that's why we think James might be at this point the killer.
Hmm.
So we meet Donna's sister, the philosopher poet Harriet,
Yeah.
played by Jessica Wallenfels, and so she wants to go out and find James, and so she, borrows her sister's bike and she leaves. So now all fingers there's like all lines are being drawn to the roadhouse. You know,
Hmm.
um, the sister's writing a line, some poetry in her journal, and I always thought it was funny where she's like the line that she's um, fixated on is the full blossom of the evening.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
which in some ways is like this night is turning out to be like something that's coming into bloom. There's like this like location where everyone's going to, and there's things that are going to be revealed at this point. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Mike and Bobby show up at the Hayward house. They're both been drinking, which is always that's kind of like that's a totally low class thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Guys are like total scumbags.
Yeah.
They're going there to hassle Donna to find out about where James is. Of course, Dr. Hayward is like, I hope you're not drinking and driving. and so he's like, well, let me go check. I want to make sure Donna, if it's late, she might be ready for bed, and I want to make sure she can come, she wants to even come down and talk to you, right?
Yeah.
They find out Donna's gone, right? And there's another totally David Lynch like line where Harriet goes, Dad, I'm going to tell it to you. I'm going to tell it to you straight.
Yeah, it's
He
total
tells
David
her like
Lynch.
he's saying he tells her that Donna like went out the window and took her bike and that sort of thing. So everyone's heading to the roadhouse at this point. Hayward calls Truman, said that Donna snuck out. Truman puts an APB out on her, and he guarantees her safety that he's going to bring her home. So now we go to the roadhouse. The great Julie Cruz is performing at this place, which is pretty awesome. Like in the middle of nowhere, you get Julie Cruz singing
Yeah.
"Falling," which is an incredible song.
Agreed.
Yeah, we get Big Ed and Norma are in a booth talking about their thing they got going on, and we get a little foreshadowing about Hank, her husband, who is locked up currently.
Hmm.
You know, Truman and Cooper are staking out the roadhouse. Mike and Bobby roll up. Donna rolls up. They call in Truman and Cooper call in back up, and inside of the roadhouse, Mike spots Donna and he starts hassling her because it turns out, I actually didn't mention this earlier, but Donna and Mike are an item. Okay, so there's that.
Hmm.
What you would see in a guy like Mike, I don't know, but they're
Yeah.
together.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course, Ed sees this, and he's a man of honor, so he steps in, and he gets sucker punched by Bobby, and there's a big fight that ensues, and then these bikers, uh, they kind of hustle Donna out to safety, and they say, "I'll take you to James." They're all bikers together, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, Cooper and Truman tail the biker, figuring that they're probably gonna take her to James, and but they lose them. They give them the sheet. The biker's able to shake them. You know, Donna goes to James in the darkness, and James is like, "I think they're going to lock me up." You know, so at this point, maybe he's the prime suspect.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
We learn a little bit more about about Laura at this stage because James is telling her about how he was the last person to see her that night
Hmm.
and how she was like a different person. She was telling him things, that how he thinks Bobby killed someone, how there's things that she was involved with that no one had any idea about, and that she was so sad and desperate, as she ran away from him into the night and shouted, "I love you." So maybe James was her true love. We never really knew what her deal was.
Hmm.
So Donna totally is a predator at this point. So she's like comforts Bobby, and they start kissing, and it's like, okay, our best friend, they're making out, whatever.
Yeah.
And my favorite line is when James says to her, "I'm sorry." It's like, "I changed my mind. I'm not sorry." It's so awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So James, in order to sort of maybe save himself a little bit, they decide to bury the other half of the locket in the woods. All right. So eventually, Cooper and Truman pick up James and they bring him to jail. Mike and Bobby are already locked up because they were in a fist fight down at the roadhouse. Um, Donna gets returned home. Later that night, there's a big donut fest at the cop shop. You know,
So
and
many donuts too, man. Like
dude,
it's a massive amount of donuts, and I
there's like
love donuts. I'm like, I want all these fucking donuts, but there's so many of them.
there's like eight donuts per person if you split it up evenly. You
Yeah,
know,
like who's eating all these?
yeah, man. And this is where Cooper asks Truman. He's like, "Can you recommend me a good hotel, a good inexpensive hotel?" And
Yeah.
of course, he ends up staying at the Great Northern. You know, so now we're back in jail. Bobby and Mike are eyeballing James. They start barking at him, right?
Yeah.
And I was
Barking and
like,
screaming.
yeah,
Yeah.
and screaming. And
Yeah.
there's that one. There's a close up on Bobby's face, and they do that like sick like pitch effect where the vocal for a minute, the voice drops in pitch and then returns to normal. And I'm like, oh, cool,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we see that Sheriff Truman, he's got some romance in his life too. We see him and Josie together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's more, hijinks going on here. We also learn that Catherine and Ben have a thing. And it just seems like everyone is like, there's all these like love triangles and stuff going on in town here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And there's another interesting scene to wrap things up is Sarah's in her misery, just dealing with like grief and just feeling it. And then we get another shot of the staircase, and then she screams as in another scene, this gloved hand takes the heart necklace away from the spot that it was buried in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's pretty much it, man. That's the full backdrop for this story. So I just want to review all the love triangles and stuff that's going on here. We've got not necessarily all love triangles, but these are all the romantic entanglements. We got Laura, Bobby, James. Okay. We got Big Ed Hurley, Nadine, his wife, and Norma. Okay. We got Pete, Catherine, and then Ben Horn. We got a romance between Sheriff Truman and Joyce and Josie.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we got the Lucy Deputy Andy love affair there because that even there's some complexity thrown into this in the next season actually. So I
Yep.
just want to bring that up as they're a couple. And that's the pilot for Twin Peaks, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So good. I also, I guess some weird like facts about the first episode too of the pilot episode. If you want, I can read those out. I
Yeah,
guess some
run it down,
some
man.
weirdness.
Break it
All right.
down.
So speaking about those trees, were supposedly Douglas firs in this. Where the trees surrounding Twin Peaks that Cooper becomes fascinated with are actually ponderosa pines rather
Really?
than Douglas firs. Yeah,
Oh,
filmed
wow.
in the pilot. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Also, the name of the hospital in Twin Peaks is Calhoun Memorial. Calhoun was also the name of Mark Frost's maternal grandmother, who would tell him stories about Hazel Drew, a 20-year-old governess whose body washed up ashore in New York City in July 1908. It was still an unsolved murder and was an inspiration for Laura Palmer.
Oh, wow. Damn. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Also, there is an alternative international pilot, which is a self contained version of the episode that contains 20 minutes of extra footage that solves the murder. This version was filmed for international release, and then also in the case the show was not picked up as a series, just in case it wasn't picked up as a series, they went ahead and like filmed like a mini movie, I guess, kind of like, like a Firewalk with Me type situation for international viewers.
Yeah, that's included in the box set that came out a few years ago, the Blu-ray box set.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I need to get that, man. I've been
Yeah.
looking at a few. There's like a couple different versions of like some really cool Blu-ray box sets of Twin Peaks, and I don't know which one to choose. There's like two of them that I'm looking at. So,
Yeah, well, I had a VHS version from back in the 90s, which I sold on eBay like, many years ago
mm,
because the gold box version came out on the DVDs. And now I also bought the box set on Blu-ray that has all three seasons in it.
oh, nice.
Yeah, and that includes the European pilot.
Damn, I might have you send me a link to that one.
Yeah, totally. When Lynch passed, because that'd been in my Amazon cart for a while. I
Mm.
was like, you know what, man, maybe I should do myself a favor and buy this because who knows, like, as far as like availability goes, like some of these things tend to disappear after a while.
Yeah, yeah, and things go up too, and
Yeah.
trying to cash in on it.
Yeah, I'll send you that link for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And also I have one more last like kind of cool fact or whatever, but while shooting a scene set in Laura Palmer's room, David Lynch had a vision of set director Frank Silva looking through the rails on Laura Palmer's bed. He shot this quick film snippet not knowing how it would come out to be used. While shooting the final scene, it was brought to Lynch's attention that Silva was visible in the mirror behind Sarah Palmer. This overjoyed Lynch, who shouted perfect, with Killer Bob have been while Killer Bob having been formed by these two instances. So I guess this is like how Killer Bob became a thing.
That's so cool, man. I love that story. Yeah, it's Frank Silva is just he was like a electrician or like a lighting guy or something like that.
Hmm.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a few little fun little trivia things I found by doing some notes for this. So,
Yeah, man.
yeah,
So this is a lot of fun, man. And we're gonna be picking this up next month over at Horror Wolf.
yes,
We'll be doing a each month we're gonna be changing which podcast puts the episode out, but this will be a monthly thing.
yeah, I'm really excited about this, man. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of content. It's a hell of a story, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to read those things, those secret history of Twin Peaks and the Laura Palmer Diaries before our next episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that too. I need to take a break from what I'm reading right now, and I need to read something a little bit different. So I definitely look into those as well.
Hell yeah, man. All right, thanks a lot, Brandon.
Hell yeah, man. Great time.
All right, take care, bro.
Too.